we can't allow any further delay.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for another episode of the Fox 12 Weather Podcast. This is episode 58. Today is June 27th. I'm meteorologist Jeff Orgeron, joined by meteorologist Katie Suniga in studio. Hey Katie.
Hola.
And Chief Meteorologist Mark Nelson, who is in that broom closet once again, or just a recording studio. How's it going, Mark?
It's called a recording studio, and I got something new today. I am so freshly showered, like 20 minutes ago. If you could be in here and smell how fresh this room is, I smell like a newborn baby today, Jeff.
Yeah, usually we see things, we hear things through podcasts. Now we're getting smell-o-vision of Mark.
Yeah, we have a shower here. Actually, we have two showers at the station. Have either of you two ever used the shower?
I shower before I come in.
Like regular people, yep. Mm-hmm.
And I do too. I do not use that. But Andy Carson uses it, I know, because he'll cycle into work or run into work and goes right into. So I think you guys share a bathroom.
Well, Andy better get to work cleaning that thing because no, actually it's fine. Anyway, so it is a nice convenience if you have a workplace where you can get showered. Because I came into work kind of early to do some stuff today, but nice weather, huh? Wow.
Yeah, you know what? We had that warmest day on record. June has had its days, had some cool days, a lot of warm days, but nothing too unusual. We're running a little bit above average. Start of the month, average high 72, end of the month 78. But nothing too unusual, nothing too extreme, that's for sure. And I will say we're going to end the month on a warm note, but nothing like 2 years ago.
I bet we end up about 2 degrees above normal. I see we're at plus 1.7 at PDX right now. So by the time we add in, let's see, the month ends, Thursday. No, Friday is the last day of the month. Is that correct? 27, 28,
yeah, Saturday's
29.
the first.
You see the mice working up there? 28, 23. Yeah. So that's right. The first is Saturday. So I bet we end up at 1.8, 2 degrees above average. So warmer than normal June.
Yeah. They keep piling up. That's for sure. But 2 years ago. This time 2 years ago, we were undergoing that extreme heat wave. Our previous all-time record was 107. We ended up hitting 108, 112, 116 with overnight lows between about 70 to 75 degrees. So, Katie, well, you were dealing with your own heat in Central Oregon.
In Central Oreget, yeah. No, I was watching you guys. We were talking about it from over there, believe me. Because we did not get that hot.
Yeah, but parts of Central Oregon did.
Well, I know not where we were.
Right.
Not my forecasting area. That was up to the northeast of us.
True.
Yeah, didn't Pelton Dam and there was that other spot? They both got that 119 tying Oregon's all-time high.
Yeah.
So I noticed it's interesting when you look at the map, the chart. I don't know if you guys noticed I updated it in the last 2 days, or for some reason I changed a banner on it. So we see files, folks. If one of us changes something, we see that the date has updated, modified, like when you look at a file. And so I took the 2021 numbers, and I noticed all areas west of the Cascades and the valleys, that was our all-time heat wave. A few spots on the coast, but in central and northeast Oregon, some spots it was the hottest ever, some spots it was not. But for the west side, though, it was more of an anomaly. But everybody was baking hot. But crazy. I can't believe that happened still. 112 on this date?
After we reach, or once we hit the summer solstice, the day in which we see peak heating, most daylight hours, around that time when I'm looking at the forecast, after what we went through in 2021, I don't know if either of you think about it this way, but I think to myself, okay, let's just not get a big, large heat dome or ridge of high pressure, because that combination of being around the summer solstice and having strong high pressure can lead to some extremes. So once we get, a couple weeks beyond that, if we can avoid a major heat wave, then we're generally looking at standard heat waves. Would you say, Mark?
That said, up until that heat wave, our record highs, our hottest temperatures had always been generally mid-July to mid-August.
True.
So I might disagree with you slightly. We might have a small met
You're
fight,
right.
Maybe a little tussle. A kerfluffle, not a real fight.
107, while extreme, certainly is not 116, right?
True. I'll give you that. But, just the abundance of extreme heat, but 100-degree days typically was in July and August. So we'll see.
The fight is over, folks, by the way.
The kerfluffle is finished? Okay. All right. We're good.
Yeah. So it looks like we will escape the low to mid 90s the end of June at least. We've recorded, I believe, 92 degrees earlier this month.
Right.
But The warmest temperature this year has been in May, actually, and it was 93, interestingly enough. And
4 days. 4 days in the 90s, too.
And
was it 4 or 5?
I thought it was 5.
Oops.
Yeah.
Whoops. Well,
Yeah,
I
it was
meant,
5.
wait, I'm going to look. Did I just mess
It was
that
4
up?
days in a row, and then
That's
we had
right.
an
That's what I
80 degree, and then there was a 5th one.
That's what I
correct.
meant. I meant a 4-day stretch.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, 4-day stretch.
Close
We
call
had
on that one.
never had. We had only had 2 days, I believe, in the 90s. We ended up hitting, 4, 5th, and now we've had 1 this month. So we've had some heat, but we haven't had extreme heat. And we do have some heat coming our way. So let's kind of get into the forecast here. I know you guys are fresh off the numbers. I saw some earlier runs, and something I've noticed.
Katie's got it.
It doesn't look like we're going to have anything extreme. It does look like the models have backed off a tad, but we're still going to get a little mini heat wave, if you will. Right, Katie?
Yeah, kind of.
Or Mark?
And it's kind of to be determined, too, because Katie and I were just talking about this. We see ridging in general kind of building along the West Coast at the end of this week into early next week through the 4th of July. But we also have little troughs going by to the north, which every time one goes by to the north, it kind of dents the ridge a little bit. So it's like, does it pop up enough to get us like to 95? And that may not happen. As of right now, I think we're going low 90s for 2 days. But yeah, Katie, you've got the 850 I want to talk 850 millibar temps. What do you have?
Well, and I was going to say real quick before we go into that, since you guys were gone last week, I've been watching this, and this was showing up much earlier, and then every day it pushed back a little farther, and it pushed back a little farther, and it pushed back a little farther. So while you guys were gone, all of this stuff was showing, and I told Mark earlier when I got in that originally that ridge was going all the way up into Canada. Like it went real high, and then each day it's been pushed back. It's been a little shallower, a little shallower, a little shallower. So it's been, teasing, but at least in a 7 to 10 day range. It's never actually made it into like that 2 to 3 day range.
What's today? Today's Tuesday. It was Sunday night when I was working. I worked Saturday and Sunday. And Sunday night I looked at the European ensembles, and half of the members had high temps like 95 to 103 or somewhere there at some point, Sunday or Monday or Tuesday, right in there. But then now there aren't as many of those members. So there's just a little more, not so much more troughing, but the ridge just isn't quite as strong, which almost nobody would argue with. This, nobody minds only being around 90 degrees. But what a stable summertime weather pattern. I mean, we may not have any sort of significant heat wave, but I just made the forecast there, and you see those 850 millibar temps. The average this time of the year is maybe 10, 12. And every single one of those is above average, even the ensemble averages, which is like, all the different members of the one model. So
for
it's
the
going to stay warm and dry. Oh, yeah. What do you have?
So for the Euro, it's the ensembles goes 12, 14, 16, 16, 18, 19, 20, 20. So that's each of the days going on. And then
even numbers.
Yep. And then the GFS goes 15, 15, 14, 12, 13, 15, 17.
Oh,
and then the
GFS is going a little low. Yeah.
It is going lower. And then you have the Canadian Saturday on 15, 17, 18, 19. So both the Euro and the Canadian go a little higher as we get closer to Monday, Tuesday. And the GFS just starts dropping down a little as we get closer to those days.
Well, we will see. But, by the way, guys, today was the day the European ensembles were upgraded.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Every day there'll be a 46-day run of the Euro. Wait till we get to winter. And that's run at a lower resolution, I think 36-kilometer resolution. Folks, that's a grid points on models. Like each grid point, the calculations are done. So 36 kilometers apart. But the European ensembles are now, as of last night, this morning, they were 18-kilometer resolution. Now it's 9-kilometer, which matches the European high-res operational model, the big boy model. So, that'll help a lot in the precipitation on our maps, precipitation and snow in the wintertime. So just a little better resolution, and that's globally by far the highest resolution ensemble
So are we
model.
thinking that's going to rein back the overdoing it with them?
It may. That's right, because part of the issue, if you think about this, if we're thinking about like grid points, let's just take rain. If there's a grid point over the east side of the Coast Range, there's another one in the middle of the metro area, and there's another one in the Cascades. It's got to kind of, for contouring maps, it's got to kind of average it out. But if you have twice as many grid points, I would think the valley will show up better in precipitation and in snow. And mountains would also, mountains would be a little tighter. Okay. Doesn't really help with the gorge too much. Although, actually, that's not true. The ensembles probably couldn't see the Columbia River Gorge at all in the past at 18-kilometer resolution. So in the winter, I didn't think of that. It'll see the gorge just as well as the operational. So that should be interesting. And you know how we always have snow maps too when we look at the Portland airport. It's kind of at the northern end of the valley, and it'll seem a little higher than what you see at Salem or Wilsonville. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, more resolution is always better. It's never you never say, "Oh, I wish this model didn't have as good a resolution." Have you ever heard that?
Yeah, no.
No.
Yeah, I really hope that for Central Oregon too, because it being a mountain town and how quickly those elevations drop just from one end of one town to the next, it makes it hard because, you know, you get those model runs come in and they say, oh, you're going to get 6 inches in Bend, and there's literally nothing on the north end, and then there's 8 on the south end, and everybody's mad because it, you know, it averages it out. But there's such a difference that it could use a grid point on either end of town, maybe even one in the middle. So
all for grid points.
Yep. So hopefully that also helps with hurricane season. I know the European model has always been the king, and we are in hurricane season.
That I didn't know. That's interesting. I didn't pay attention since we don't deal with hurricanes here. So that's generally, it does a little better, huh?
King Euro, yeah, that's what they refer to it as.
Well,
you know, and Mark likes to hear that. That's music to your ears, isn't it?
They say.
This heat is going to be cranking up right around the start of July, right around the 4th of July. It looks like you guys say the warmest days should arrive Monday, Tuesday or so.
Yeah, the 3rd or the 4th probably. It doesn't appear that it sticks around for long either. I mean,
that's right.
I think every model has kind of a little weaker, some sort of weak troughing maybe the end of next week. But we'll see how that plays out. I think the screaming message here is there's no rain in sight. We're in our summer dry spell, right? I mean, we all agree we're in that summer dry spell. And it just looks like a very stable summertime weather pattern. Like if you have, you want to go out, this lake you always like to go camp at, now's the time. And sometimes in late June and early July, we're still trying to get out of that last of the spring showers and, 60s and low 70s. So summer arrived a little bit early.
Yeah, and a couple of notes. No smoke out here. We've had a really slow start to fire season. Some of the rain while we were gone out of town help to kind of dampen things up and slow things down. So get out and enjoy the good air quality for the holiday weekend. And with the heat that's coming in.
Well, I was going to say, except for the night of the 4th, the air quality, that issue where it's often one of the worst days of the year, worst evenings of the year.
Yeah, I think it's interesting though that there are some bans on fireworks already. So hopefully some people heed the warnings and, the laws and whatnot, the ordinances, but something else to note is with the heat coming in, sometimes we'll get that offshore wind where the wind is pointed from land to sea, which is usually opposite of what we deal with out here in the Northwest. And that really dries out the air and elevates our fire danger tremendously. We're not going to see that. We're, at least from what I've seen this morning, there were no signs of east wind. So that being said, we will have, this stretch of warm days turning hot, no rainfall coming. The fire danger is going to be creeping back in. So if you're going to be recreating for the holiday weekend, if you're going to be camping, be smart about what you're doing. Check local counties and campsites for any kind of burn bans or anything like that. And just be smart because we don't want to start a wildfire. We don't want our firefighters going out there during the holiday weekend and knocking things down. Go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to say, don't throw your cigarettes out the window. That's not cool.
Yeah, it isn't. No way.
That's my public service announcement right there.
Well, I'll have a public service announcement for you. So one time in this dry conditions over in Central Oregon, somebody had a chain from a trailer that was hitting the ground, and it sent some sparks off the side of the road and into some dry stuff. And it actually set a chain of fires up down the highway. So, little things that you might not even think of is like if you're hauling a trailer and you're headed somewhere, just make sure there's no spark potential, because that could even cause some problems.
Yeah, good point.
That's right. Where it's so dry over there, and especially east of the Cascades where it's so dry. We once visited a wheat farmer in the Maupin area, and I remember, I forget, we just had a small car. Family went over there to visit because they were going to have lunch and hang out on their combine like the old days. I used to do that in college, and I remember I pulled right into the wheat field, and they're all like, no, because we had just driven from Portland, so the whole bottom of the car would be hot, of course, and I pulled into, cut
a dry field
that was probably still 4 to 6 inches high, Like, no, don't park in the grass. Like, just, and they're serious. I mean, they have a little water truck there, but it's like, we'd prefer that you not burn our farm down with your car.
Yeah. So let's get through.
So don't park in dry grass.
Let's get through the holiday weekend and the start of July, hopefully without any wildfires breaking out.
Fire free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's great that we have good air quality right now. Unfortunately, that is not the case in parts of the central and eastern United States. I was checking out some of the air quality numbers this morning, some of the smoke forecasts, and those big boreal fires are still burning in Canada. They're in remote areas. And Canadian officials oftentimes just let these things burn when they're not threatening homes and they're not threatening properties, etc. And that's what's going on right now. And it's all, the smoke is dictated by the weather pattern. So if there's a high pressure system over the southern plains, like there is right now, just causing Texas and Louisiana areas to bake in heat, that's also helping to steer some of that smoke from northwest to southeast. So you've got smoke pouring into the Midwest today, in parts of the Mid-Atlantic, and I'm sure the Northeast is going to be getting in on the action. So if you're going to be traveling for the holiday weekend, you're going to be maybe heading out to Chicago or let's say Michigan, you should check on the air quality. You can do that in a couple of different ways. You can go to airnow.gov. You can go to purpleair.com, a couple of sites that I like to use, and type in your city and check out what's going on with the air quality, because you may want to bring an extra mask. It's unusual. This is not a very typical June/early July that's going to be playing out in the Midwest and Northeast. And have
you seen those numbers back there? The heat numbers are huge.
Are we talking like the Southern Plains?
Southern Plains.
Oh,
yeah.
Especially when you look at the heat indices.
Yeah, I was just looking at Dallas, Fort Worth, 102 right now. This is at 5 p.m. their time. 102. South wind is breezy. And the dew point is 72. It was as high as 75 at 10 a.m. So the dew point is in the 70s, and we think 60-degree dew points are bad. So it's 102. The heat index is 113. Yet at the same, so it's 102 there. At Phoenix, it's 108.
But it feels
like the dew point is 16.
Yeah.
So the heat index, when it's 108 degrees, is actually, it feels like 99 in Phoenix. And we would agree, Jeff, after being there last week, that's about what I felt like. It didn't feel like 109. I felt like it was hot, but it was like, I didn't sweat much there, which was odd, but I cannot imagine walking out in 100-degree temperatures with the dew point in the low 70s.
Dude.
That's like instant just sweat.
I was there I believe it was, so I covered weather in Waco, Texas for 2 years, from 2017 to 2019. And I believe it was, I believe it was 2018 when Waco hit its all-time record high of 114. Man, let me tell you, and even those days, when the actual temperature is extreme, there's still some moisture in the air. And, why is it so important to have dry air versus more? Your body sweats, and that's how we regulate the heat in our body. And that sweat evaporates. Think about when you get out of a pool or you get out of the shower and your body gets really cold really fast because the water's evaporating off your skin. When it's really humid and it's really hot, you can't regulate that heat. The sweat doesn't evaporate off your skin effectively. So that's why it's so dangerous. And yeah, there are excessive heat warnings, heat advisories posted across parts of the Four Corners, the Southern Plains, the Deep South. This is a big-time heat wave. And Mark, you mentioned a little while ago that the heat that we have coming in is going to be short-lived because the ridge is not necessarily going to park itself. But these folks down south, that ridge has been parked over them, and they're going to go the rest of the week with extreme heat. It's relentless stuff. So, yeah, if you're going to be traveling out there, I'm sure you're aware of the forecast. But when you have humidity involved or high dew points, it is a different animal.
Yeah, I'll take our 92-degree day with a dew point of 50 or 55 anytime. Suddenly it doesn't seem so hot.
Yeah, so between the heat down south and the smoke up to the north and to the east, there's some pretty active in its own kind weather impacting the eastern half of the United States. So that's what's going on out there. I think, I wanted to obviously focus on weather, but I also wanted to bring some attention to one of our teammates. Camilla Ortiz, guys, competed in the Ironman in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho over the weekend. Mark, you filled in for her. That's why you were working Saturday and Sunday.
Right.
And for folks that are not familiar with Ironman, you have to swim, you have to run, or you swim, me think about this. Swim, cycle, run.
Yep, swim.
I think that's the order, though. And I don't know exactly the distance for swimming. I think it's like 1.5 to 2 miles or something like that. And then we'll look at the stats in a little while, but an Ironman is a lot of swimming, a lot of running, and a lot of bicycling. And Camilla,
I think the cycling is around 100.
Okay.
100 for the cycling. Then it's a full marathon.
Full marathon
after doing those two.
Think about running a full marathon after swimming and
biking
for a heck of a distance. So Camilla placed 4th in her age group, from what I understand.
Wow, yeah.
And there were other rankings. I was watching her live on this Ironman website. It was super fun watching her finish up the run.
I didn't know I could have done that. Shoot.
I didn't either, Katie, but I was like, I wonder if I can look up her results. And she was on her final 4 miles, and I was watching her times come in.
Shoot.
But because she placed 4th in her age group, guys, she qualified to compete in the Ironman in Kona, Hawaii, which, from what I understand, is like the big time.
It's the international
one. The original, right?
Yeah. I've seen signs out there when I've been there before of the where the Ironman swim is and whatnot. So, shout out to Camilla. I know she wanted to be with us on the podcast today. The timing didn't work out. Hopefully, she can be with us next week and we can talk more about this. But we have an athlete on the team, guys. We have an athlete.
No kidding.
Amazing. The human body, what it can do. And Camilla is just like, it's kind of nice because the day after she can eat whatever she wants. Actually, for the next week after, she burns so many calories. She's like, pizza and cookies and all this stuff.
I saw her when she was training right before she got to the point where she couldn't do it anymore. She was sitting with a McDonald's hamburger and fries in her hands, and she was just hugging it with the biggest smile on her face.
Yeah.
Katie, have you
a lot of fuel needed, so that's amazing.
Katie, have you ever opened her drawer in the Weather Center?
Oh yeah.
We all
I mean, if you're hungry, that's where you go, right? Yeah, there's.
She's like, hey, you want a Snickers? Hey.
For anybody that doesn't know, Camilla has the stash of goodies in her drawer because I think the hunger just kicks in out of nowhere.
Yep. But her drawer says somebody else's name on it, like John or something, doesn't it?
Oh,
I'm still here. It's Gary. I think it's Gary, and that's some joke, I think, with Julie Broward that used to work with us.
That's
right. It's some joke between those two. Maybe she should explain. Maybe next podcast, ask her who is Gary.
It's Gary.
We have some questions, that's for sure. So congratulations to Camilla, and if you follow Camilla on social media and you don't already know, you should shoot her a congratulations as well. All right, the three of us garden, and Mark and I were texting Katie over the weekend. Because I was out there with my wife thinning the apple trees, amongst other things. We've had a pretty good season so far. Man, our tomato plants are going nuts. How are things going in your... I want to hear about what's going on in the Nelson backyard and the Suniga backyard. So, Katie, why don't you kick it off?
How about Katie?
Yeah.
What do you have,
well,
Katie?
mine's not as intricate as your guys' because I just started this year, and they're in pots. And so for anybody who gardens, you know that pots restrict the growth, which means you don't get as much as if you were to put them in the ground. But my tomatoes have gone gangbusters. Like, it's insane how much my tomatoes have gone. And I went out yesterday morning and I was checking on things, and I lift up a leaf and there would be an entire cucumber that wasn't there the last time I checked. Like,
Those are fast.
Probably 4 or 5 inches long. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a cucumber that was, I promise you, was not here last time I checked under that leaf. Yeah, exactly. Like Mark was making a little, half-inch sign, just tiny. So those are going crazy. And I'm trying these new peppers. They're Indian hot peppers. And I had none. And I went out the other day and I found 4. And they're just, everything is just going, like I said, just gangbusters. It's awesome. Strawberries, everything.
Good.
So it's been 3 new zucchini as well, and 3 more bell peppers as well. So that's
pretty amazing for the end of June, because it depends on where you live. You're a little lower elevation, but to get stuff in June is pretty impressive. It's that warm May that really did it, and the cold weather we had, that spell of cold weather, just wasn't quite enough to, just 3 days.
Slow them down.
It slowed them down, slowed them down, but not enough to really make things really slow down.
They're going great. So we have lots of plans for some pasta salads with lots of veggies in them here soon.
Good. Mark, what's going on in your backyard?
Well, my cucumbers are only about 3 inches tall, yay tall. The carrots and everything looks good. I did just start thinning the apples after I told you. Didn't I tell you like a week ago, Jeff? I said, "Oh, did you thin your apples?" Because the reason you thin them is 2 reasons. One is they produce too many fruit. You don't want them. They'll produce a ton of little small ones.
Right.
And the other thing is, like I noticed on a couple of my branches there, I mean, it's going to break off by late summer, and you'll damage your tree because there's so much fruit, it'll just break it. So, and we always have too many apples anyway. So I'm only like half clipped. I got I have 5 apple trees. I haven't even touched one of them. I've done maybe half on the other 4 trees, but I got to finish it probably this weekend after we go camping. So they're getting pretty big, though. I should have done it maybe 2 weeks ago. I mean, most of my apples were like that already, and typically this time of the year they're pretty small. So yep, I saw you've been thinning as well, right?
Yeah, Katie and I were out there. You got that picture that we sent you, and yeah, we have a ton of apples.
The other Katie.
Yeah, my Katie.
Your Katie.
My wife Katie. Yeah.
Not the Katie we're talking to right now.
Right. Yeah. So the apple trees are doing better than they've ever done. We've only had them for a few years out in the backyard, and we are just getting tons of raspberries right now. We're waiting for the blueberries to come in. They sit on the deck on a bush, or basically we have this big pod on the deck, and blueberries come in seasonally. So we'll see how that one plays out. But Katie, we've had already tons of strawberries. They come in waves. So the first wave is ended. So we're waiting for wave number 2.
Yep.
Also have cucumbers. Man, big cucumber came in while we were in Phoenix, Mark. That was exciting to see. We're growing pumpkins. We're attempting to for the first time this year. So we have 2 pumpkin plants that are they're going crazy. Man, those things get big fast. I'm kind of nervous.
They do. They grow fast.
Yeah.
But they're fun. They're kind of like low maintenance. You just keep giving plenty of water and some fertilizer, and they just take off.
Exactly. Yeah. And we went kind of crazy with the tomato plants. I think we have like 12 tomato plants this year just because we eat so many of them. We were thinking, wow, let's just go for it. Yeah. So those are going nuts. We got some kale in there. Squash. We have multiple squash coming in now. We use those in, we make Indian food at home, like tikka masala, so we'll throw those in there once those are ripe. And a few other things coming in. The garden's looking great. We've already had a cherry harvest out front on the cherry tree. We have a new cherry tree that we got last year. It was probably maybe 8 feet tall, but it's a grafted one.
Do you make Pepper run around all day to chase the birds away, or how do you keep the birds away from it?
Pepper chases the squirrels and the crows. She's getting a little older. She's 12 years old.
Crows.
She doesn't have many teeth, so she's not very vicious. And I think because of that, I think all these little animals know that, oh yeah, she's not going to hurt us, so we'll just come back while she's inside. So yeah, she does some guard work, but it's been a good season. The fact that it's late June, I'm excited for how the rest of the summer will play out. And we should do it.
I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
So, talking about apple trees, has anybody ever talked to you about pruning your tomatoes?
I have. I do in September I kind of strip it pretty much around Labor Day. I heard that shocks them kind of at the end. Then I've only got about a month from that point until they're done.
Katie,
what were you going to say, Katie?
Well, I was just going to say, Katie, my Katie was pruning them earlier this year because I guess it promotes growth. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. So what you do is there's a very specific type of branch that comes off, and you would think, we need all this to get all the sunlight and the vitamins and everything, but you actually prune the non-productive ones, and it takes that energy and then puts it in. And so we love to make like salsas. We did tomatillos before, and I was able to get an entire season's worth of tomatoes plus give them to my friends off of one tomato plant because I trellised it on a 6-foot trellis, and so I just grew my tomatoes like a vine and then trimmed off all those extra little branches, and it literally just exploded. We could not keep up with the production of tomatoes when we did that. And so I had one cherry tomato bush and one hothouse tomato, and it was enough to feed the neighborhood. It was insane.
Cool.
So pruning them really, really helps the production and the ripening, the quickly more ripened, so then more tomatoes can come out off of that. So
this is the first
if you haven't learned how to do that, you should.
Good to know.
This is the first year that my wife has done it, and I've never seen our tomato plants so large, and it's late June. So we still have at least a couple more months of growing and harvesting. Yeah. So it's turning out to be a great year for growing, and I'm sure we would love to hear. I mean, if you listen to our podcast and you follow us on social media and you have any tips for gardening, we would love to hear them. We will include some of those tips if they're worthwhile to mention on our next episode of the Fox 12 Weather Podcast. And I think we're officially running out of time. It's 3:30. Mark, who's doing the 4 o'clock today? Is that you, Mark?
That's
I got the 4, the 5. Katie's got the
6, 8, and 9.
Okay.
And then I got the 10 and the 11.
All right. So, we have a lot of news, and you can catch that forecast.
Oh, we sure do.
That's right. That's coming
We sure do.
We're really honing in on the heat now, folks, as we get into middle part of summer or so. I guess depending on when you think summer starts.
Yeah, this is prime time. I mean, July and August is prime time for heat. These next 9 weeks, this is prime time.
Yeah. So expect more of that, and we'll have another episode coming next week, either Tuesday or Thursday. Those seem to be the days that we record, and we appreciate you joining us. Enjoy your 4th of July weekend. We'll have a recap of that next week, and until then, we'll talk to you soon.
Please tell us